As INFJ males are one of the rarest phenomena out there, being one most definitely comes with its typical set of problems. What are some of the typical problems INFJ males struggle with? What are some possible solutions? Let's find out. Number 1. INFJ males may have a complicated relationship with masculinity. What is masculinity? Usually it's associated with rationality, aggression, tough-mindedness, competition, dominance, courage, self-assertion, ambition, strength, independence, stoicism, just to name a few. What is usually not associated with is sensitivity, emotionality, sentimentality, empathy, intuition, creativity, modesty, nurturance, warmth, and kindness. Traits that are considered more typically feminine. The typical INFJ traits tend to lean more toward what our Western society deems quintessential feminine traits. These typically feminine traits stand out more in INFJ males due to the societal contrast of differential sex and gender expectations. Often, INFJ males were shamed, ridiculed, emasculated, or not accepted by their social circles because the INFJ male didn't fit the masculine stereotype. Attempts of the INFJ male's parents and peers to instill masculine traits by force into the INFJ male or to get rid of the feminine traits via invalidating tactics were probably very common for a lot of INFJ males during their formative years. For example, parents who said things like, "Stop being so sensitive, I want a strong son," or "Did you see how that other boy in your class stood up for himself? Why can't you be more like them?" Or "Why do you walk so awkwardly? You walk like a faggot." Sadly enough, a true personal story. As such, INFJ males may have developed a complicated relationship to masculinity. Firstly, because INFJ males may have become allergic to many stereotypical masculine traits, such as aggression, dominance, and competition. Because their families and peers might have tried to shove those traits down the INFJ male's throat and refused to accept the INFJ male for who he was. Secondly, due to the possible shame around masculinity for INFJ males, because overtly and covertly, their social circle continuously reminded them how much they were falling short on masculinity. Thirdly, because INFJ males observed around them continuously how far removed they were from the desirable societal norm, as INFJ males didn't fit in society seemingly as easily as everyone else. Fourthly, because INFJ males had to invent a new version of masculinity for themselves that would hold space for their more feminine temperament. A type of masculinity that wasn't modeled by anyone close to them and hard to find successful role models of in the world. Exiled masculinity. Possibly as a result, INFJ males may have disavowed typical masculinity and disowned their own masculine traits and anything they associate with it as well. Many INFJ males may find it hard to express their anger, assert their boundaries, or engage in conflict because they genuinely feel like a bad person when they do. INFJ males may struggle with thinking they are selfish when they don't prioritize the feelings and needs of others above their own. Due to this probable impoverished relationship to their masculine side, INFJ males may have a shallow view on what masculinity is. They might associate anyone's display of the stereotypically masculine traits with mouth-breathing savages or unsophistication, because surely the INFJ male is the paragon of sophistication due to their creativity, curiosity, feminine temperament, social ethics, and kindness, right? INFJ males may use this belief to virtue signal to themselves and cover up their own painful realization that they could benefit from their aggression, anger, and other masculine traits if they could incorporate them in a healthy way. Because secretly, we know that we often struggle with poor boundaries, we are likely to have trouble withstanding verbal and physical conflict, and we may be too focused on the needs of others while neglecting ourselves. As practical idealists, INFJs are usually very much focused on personal development and character growth, and regularly looking for flaws in their own character, despite how challenging this can be. However, depending on the level of emasculation INFJ males perhaps experienced during their upbringing, it could be just too painful for them to see and feel their character flaws that pertain to insufficiencies as a man imposed by societal norms. Ironically enough, as long as the INFJ male refrains from healing their possibly warped relationship to masculinity and don't recover their banished masculine traits and integrate them in a healthy and fitting way, INFJ males will remain ultimately psychologically unsophisticated and impoverished, regardless of how well they develop their feminine traits. A possible solution. Reintegrating masculinity. A solution could be to start acknowledging disavowed feelings inside of you, like anger, for example, and allowing yourself to feel them with the help of a therapist. If that goes well, you might want to start expressing it in a more controlled, reasonable, and pragmatic manner when the situation calls for it. An assertiveness training coach or licensed therapist could help you with the verbal expression and the processing of the intense emotions like anger and other emotions you might fear to feel and express. More so, practicing a martial art like boxing, karate, or Brazilian jiu-jitsu could help with the controlled expression of physical aggression and getting familiar with conflict via sparring. I box myself, and it helped me tremendously in my confidence of knowing I could defend myself to a degree when a physical altercation may occur. To truly self-actualize, INFJ males are faced with the challenge of integrating their masculine traits and marrying them to their strong feminine traits. Who knows what comes after this transformation? It most likely won't be the barbaric knuckle-dragging image of a caveman that INFJ males fear so much of becoming. Let's explore and see. Number 2. INFJ males may struggle with toxic shame. Throughout my different videos, I keep reiterating the high probability that INFJ males suffer from toxic shame, and I can't state this enough, especially since it's such an insidious and elusive emotional condition. I say this as an INFJ male who's been struggling with toxic shame from childhood well into my mid-20s, where I first became conscious of it as a concept through self-help literature. During our formative years, we INFJ males were likely shamed, emasculated, ridiculed, or met with a lack of understanding by our significant others for our INFJ males' sensitive, gentle, soft-spoken, and sentimental nature. The reason being that sensitive males don't fit the societal standard of what a man is supposed to be. Hyper-rational, aggressive, dominant, tough-minded, competitive, disagreeable, stoic, for example. On top of that, the needs of highly sensitive children aren't widely accepted nor understood in our Western parenting practices, nor are the modern work-life balance of parents and modern nuclear family lifestyle conducive to children's developmental needs in general. Therefore, the INFJ male's possibly prolonged and excessive amounts of experienced shame could have turned into toxic shame over the years. Toxic shame is normal shame gone haywire. Toxic shame usually consists of intense feelings of worthlessness, low self-esteem, constant negative self-talk, self-loathing, self-disgust, being afraid to look stupid, worrying what others think of you, debilitating perfectionism, and much more. Toxic shame is a pervasive sense of shame, always in the background, that can be triggered to the forefront by almost anything. Renowned counselor, self-help author, and expert on toxic shame, John Bradshaw, writes in his book, Healing the Shame That Binds You, the following. What I discovered was that shame as a healthy human emotion can be transformed into shame as a state of being. As a state of being, shame takes over one's identity. To have shame as an identity is to believe that one's being is flawed, that one is defective as a human being. Once shame is transformed into an identity, it becomes toxic and dehumanizing.
See, because when you're shame-based, it's always like this hunter is coming, and he's going to catch you. You're going to get off guard one day, and they're going to catch you. And they're going to find out that you really are flawed and defective, because that's what toxic shame feels like.
Now, when I look at some of the widely accepted typical INFJ male traits or general INFJ traits, I observe a lot of behavior patterns and traits that seem like coping mechanisms to deal with toxic shame. For instance, the INFJ's elevated need for isolation and privacy, the social shape-shifting abilities for social harmony almost at any cost, the INFJ's compulsion to act hyper-independently and difficulty with trusting or opening up to others, the INFJ's tendency towards perfectionism. Bradshaw continues to write in his book, "Toxic shame is unbearable and always necessitates a cover-up, a false self. Since one feels his true self is defective and flawed, one needs a false self that is not defective and flawed. Once one becomes a false self, one ceases to exist psychologically. To be a false self is to cease being an authentic human being." Now, of course, many of the typical INFJ traits stem from their introverted, highly sensitive nature that would manifest themselves regardless of excessive amounts of shame. For instance, needing a lot of solitude or being good at maintaining social harmony. Yet, it's worth to investigate for ourselves what's really going on inside, because toxic shame may be eroding our personality. A possible solution. Coming out of hiding. INFJ males may be especially susceptible to toxic shame since most of the proverbial INFJ traits can be associated with a feminine temperament. As such, INFJ males may be shamed more for their feminine traits due to the differential societal sex and gender expectations. To heal toxic shame, Bradshaw writes, "To heal our toxic shame, we must come out of hiding. As long as our shame is hidden, there is nothing we can do about it. In order to change our toxic shame, we must embrace it." There's an old therapeutic adage that states, "The only way is through." It's highly recommended that you seek professional help via therapy or counseling if you want to start healing that toxic shame, and to not do this on your own. I'm in my mid-30s now and still struggling with toxic shame, and recently went into therapy for it. It's so insidious because just like a fish who grows up in toxic water would think the poisoned water is normal, a toxically ashamed person would think that feeling ashamed, self-loathing, and depressed is normal as well. But the real tricky part is that a toxically ashamed person wouldn't even recognize the shame because it's so normal to them. I want to make you conscious of it so that it can help speed up the awakening process. If you think you're struggling with toxic shame as well, I implore you to seek professional help as soon as possible, because this insidious emotional condition doesn't go away by itself. It only worsens over time as it slowly erodes more and more of your psyche. To me, it's an autoimmune disease of the mind. Please check the description of this video for some good resources to help you on your healing journey. INFJs are built for connection to a large degree. Stop living in shame and awaken to your true nature. Number 3. INFJ males may struggle with keeping women romantically interested. INFJ males and INFJs in general are known for their social warmth, generosity, empathy, and kind nature. Great traits that give INFJs usually a huge social advantage when building and maintaining harmonious social relationships. Unfortunately, INFJ males can easily go overboard on their niceness and social desirability, causing a propensity to develop the infamous nice guy syndrome. The INFJ male's nice guy syndrome is often the culprit of many problems in dating and relationships. Up front, the INFJ male's social warmth, empathy, and kindness can draw a lot of women in. Many women may find the abundant, genuine curiosity, deep listening, and empathy of the INFJ male a refreshing, memorable encounter with the opposite sex. From a relationship point of view, the traits INFJ males harness to create an almost analgesic social warmth are invaluable and rare. However, INFJ males may have a very hard time even reaching the point of getting into a romantic relationship. Escalating things romantically with women can be hard for INFJ males because the INFJ male's kind, gentle, and empathetic traits are so pronounced. INFJ males may be afraid to upset, offend, or make women uncomfortable by flirting, inviting them on a date, going for a kiss, or escalating things sexually, especially within the ever-expanding woke culture nowadays. As such, INFJ males may stay stuck in their nice guy persona, which eventually turns women off romantically, because the INFJ male in this state doesn't make any romantic advances. Women may lose romantic interest because, as the proverbial nice guy, the INFJ male has no sexual edge, no alluring flirtatious charisma, romantic courage, nor does he tactfully take the lead romantically. As a result, the INFJ male risks only giving off friend energy, and in an overwhelming majority of cases, this will only lead to the infamous friend zone. This is fine if you're only looking for platonic relationships with the opposite sex. However, the nice guys that do want romance keep their romantic interest hidden from women and try to fly under the radar, so it's no wonder those nice guys fly themselves right into the seemingly inescapable friend zone. A possible solution: learn attraction and dating skills. As an INFJ male myself, I often got a lot of attention from women over the years. Yet, I had trouble seeing certain subtle signs or how to progress romantically. Often, I was puzzled about women getting bored with me, losing interest, or ghosting me, because I thought just being nice and friendly was enough to be romantically successful, right? Wrong. After I decided to educate myself on sexual polarity, attraction, and dating, this dramatically changed my success with women. There was a lot of pickup artistry nonsense out there on the internet, but I soon stumbled upon two teachings that really resonated with me as an INFJ male who loves women, and therefore I assume these will resonate with you too. Check out the teachings of life coach Zan Perion, who talks about the spirit of a rare kind of man who is loved and adored by women because of his love for women and the feminine spirit. How we as men can embody that spirit of generosity, curiosity, honesty, and the celebration of women, while at the same time embody our sexual, mischievous, playful, scoundrel energy respectfully as well. According to Zan, the balance between our light and dark energies is what is vital to make men irresistibly attractive to women.
It's your job to be men and be strong and not try and take from women.
It's about giving.
Yeah, it's about sharing and experience together.
I've been practicing past 10 years and they work so well for me because as an INFJ male, I truly adore women. So things like respect, honesty, authenticity, and beauty are very important for me. Also, I highly expect Zan Perion to be an INFJ male himself when I hear him talk about women. Please go check these teachings out. They have been life-changing for me, as I said before. Number 4. INFJ males may keep themselves small. As mentioned earlier, INFJ males were likely shamed for their feminine traits or perceived lack of masculinity. But many of the greatest strengths of INFJ males lie within those feminine traits. For example, creativity, sensitivity, empathy, and intuition. The INFJ male might be suppressing these or other feminine traits and as a result aren't able to utilize, develop, grow, and inspire via that trait. For instance, the INFJ male may be secretly indulging in many creative activities like painting, poetry, or music production, but is reluctant to share their work with anyone ever. Or the INFJ male might keep themselves small through self-sabotaging, like procrastinating creative acts or suffering from a paralyzing perfectionism, unconsciously avoiding their creativity, life goals, and anticipated failures. INFJ males may also suppress their intuition and solely identify with their rational mind because that's more accepted and less spooky to their social circles. INFJ men might also keep themselves small because they don't want to upset anyone with their strengths. INFJ males can be so attuned to the feelings and needs of others that INFJ men fear that their own ambition, competence, drive, talents, skills, and success will make them outshine their loved ones, who then come to envy or hate the INFJ male out of existential discomfort. As a result, INFJ men may refrain from showing their skills and talents, sharing their successes, or sharing their honest thoughts and feelings fully to always make sure their mere existence isn't upsetting anyone. Covertly, in the dark, when nobody's watching, INFJ males may be working hard on their dreams and skills. However, sadly, this dialing down of themselves to not bruise anyone's ego around them long term leads INFJ males to self-sabotage, missed opportunities, resentment, arrested development, and incompatible friends and lovers. A possible solution: speaking and acting out your truth no matter what. As of late, I have been experimenting with speaking and acting out my truth to the best of my ability, which is inspired by Jordan Peterson's advice. Now you could ask, what is the truth? Do we have the ultimate final answer to everything? No, absolutely not. Speaking and acting out your truth has more to do with sharing your honest opinions when you see fit, or at least not lying about it, nor act out things you don't believe in. As such, you take a leap of faith and confront the fear of being seen or exposed for who you truly are, which I think is a fear many INFJ males have developed to cope with criticism, shaming, not being accepted for who they were during childhood because of their INFJ feminine temperament. Speaking your truth and showing up as yourself is a scary practice, and you're going to feel exposed. You might also find out that some people in your life right now can't handle the power of your full authenticity, like your skills, talents, dreams, drive, ambitions, and opinions. It's frightening to find out if the people in your life were just there because your mediocrity made them feel better about themselves. What will happen when you reveal your true power? What happens when you power up to the very max? A daunting question, because I think many INFJs are afraid of their own power. However, I know that we're holding back, and secretly you know this too. Now, some caution is advised with this practice. It's going to stir up things, especially when you're used to people-pleasing to avoid conflict. You also might be in a situation where you can't all of a sudden show up authentically. For instance, because you're in a toxic relationship with a pathological narcissist, or in a dead-end job you depend on to provide for your family. Yet, take stock of your current life situation, perhaps together with a mental health professional, and see how you can tactfully and gradually show up more authentically and stop keeping yourself small. Consider therapy or life coaching. Check out helpful resources in the description of this video. Number 5. INFJ males may struggle with showing their emotions. As mentioned before, INFJ males were likely criticized and shamed for their INFJ traits that fit mostly a feminine temperament. Emotionality, sentimentality, and showing feelings were therefore probably discouraged by the parents and extended family of INFJ males. Since it's very painful to be invalidated or have your emotions discounted regularly, INFJ males can start to hide or suppress their feelings during their formative years in order to avoid further harsh judgment or ridicule from their intimate social circle. So INFJ men might always display an affable demeanor to communicate that they're fine and not draw attention to themselves, while perhaps they're feeling depressed or anxious. In the short term, this may help alleviate immediate relational stresses or needing to talk about uncomfortable emotions. However, long term, this may result in emotional illiteracy, a compulsive suppression or avoidance of emotions. Consequently, this can lead to a lot of relationship problems for the INFJ male as an adult. Friends and romantic partners of the INFJ male may complain about an emotional flatness, hyper-rationality, hyper-independence, or emotional distance of their INFJ male friend or partner. Many times, the INFJ male might not even understand what their loved ones are talking about, because the INFJ male's disconnection from his emotions has been going on for years. Or the INFJ male might be able to express their emotions when alone, but hides them extensively in public. A possible solution: reconnect with your joy. Now, they say that when you suppress your negative emotions, you automatically suppress your positive emotions as well, because suppressing emotions means suppressing the full spectrum of emotions. Trying to feel our negative emotions might be too big of a step to do alone, especially if we had some form of trauma. I recommend to do the heavy emotional work together with a licensed therapist or other mental health professional. What we could do ourselves to kickstart reconnecting with our emotional world is reconnecting with our joy joy. What are the things, activities, people in your life that help spark your joy? Look back at your life and search for those things that made you curious, engaged, joyous, and in the present moment. What grabs your immediate interest and attention, putting you in an effortless, relaxed, engaged state of bliss? If you don't know what that feels like anymore, it feels like lying in a nice warm bath. Which things were you naturally curious about? Was it kitesurfing, comics, drawing, photography, planning weddings, making or listening to music, philosophical conversations, riding a motorcycle through the countryside? In our modern busy lives, it's easy to forget to nurture ourselves, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Reconnect with those joyous activities and revitalize your spirit, for starters, to get the feelings flowing again. Check out the description of this video for all the helpful resources. What are some other common INFJ male problems? Leave your comments below. Watch this other common INFJ male problems video next.